everyone, the paper I'm going to present is titled as Focusing on Pinocchio's Nose, a gradient scrutinizer to thwart split learning hijacking attacks using intrinsic attributes. My name is Jiayun Fu. I am a PhD student at Huazhong University of Science and Technology. I represent the authors from Huazhong University of Science and Technology and Microsoft Research Asia to present this paper. In this presentation, I will first introduce split learning, hijacking attack in split learning, and existing defense. Then I will present our hijacking attack named Split Spy to evade the existing SOTA defense SplitGuard. After that, I will present our proposed defense named Gradient Scrutinizer to thwart existing and adaptive hijacking attacks, and finally conclude the presentation. Split learning is a privacy-preserving distributed learning technique. It has two scenarios, depending on if labels are shared. In label-sharing split learning, a model is split into two parts, owned by clients and the server, as the left figure shows. During model training, a client computes the initial layers of the model and sends output along with their labels to the server, while the server computes the remaining layers of the model, calculates loss values with the received labels, and then backward propagates gradients to a client. In label-protected split learning, a model is split into three parts, with the first and third parts owned by clients and the middle parts owned by the server. During training, unlike the label-sharing case, a client calculates loss values and backward propagates to the server, and the server then backward propagates back to the client to update the first part of the model. In future space hijacking attack, denoted as FSHA, a malicious server trains an autoencoder consisting of an encoder and a decoder with a public dataset that capture the same domain as client's private datasets, while client's model is hijacked to be trained with the server in a manner like a game, making client's model approximate the encoder of the autoencoder. With FSHA, what a client sends to the server is actually latent code of their private training data. The server can apply the decoder to receive the codes to reconstruct private training data with high fidelity. Here, we show some reconstructed results at the second row. The first row shows the corresponding training samples. We can see that private training data can be reconstructed with high fidelity. FSHA is a serious threat to split learning. To thwart FSHA, SplitGuard is the only effective defense against FSHA. It exploits different behaviors of hijacked training and honest training on falsely labeled samples. In honest training, compared with gradients of normal examples, the gradients of falsely labeled samples tends to have larger magnitude and different directions. Such differences disappear in a hijacked training process. In SplitGuard, after the initial training, at 50th step, a client intermittently sends falsely labeled samples to server. SplitGuard calculates a SplitGuard score based on the magnitude difference and the direction difference between falsely labeled samples and normal samples. If the SplitGuard score is below a threshold, the server is determined to be malicious. SplitGuard can detect hijacking attack before private data is leaked. However, the very property exploited by SplitGuard can also be used to evade SplitGuard. Our Split Spy exploits the distinctive behaviors of fake samples to identify them from normal samples and cropped SplitGuard detection. In addition to FSHA, SplitGuard server also maintains a legitimate model that trains normally in a speed-up manner. The legitimate model is used to calculate prediction errors. Samples are ordered according to their prediction errors. The top lambda percentage of samples with the largest errors are considered to be fake samples. Their gradients sent to clients are calculated with the legitimate model, while hijacked gradients are sent back for remaining samples. As for label-protected split learning, we can leverage an existing label inference attack to infer labels and then apply the described SplitGuard attack. We show some experimental results of our proposed SplitGuard on CIFAR-10 and compare with FSHA here. The left side shows the result of the batch-level detection used in SplitGuard. The right side shows the result of SplitGuard's variants that use the sample-level detection, which improves detection performance. We can find that SplitGuard is indistinguishable from normal training to SplitGuard. Thus, our SplitGuard can successfully evade SplitGuard. On the other hand, FSHA can be effectively detected by SplitGuard. We can also see that lambda in SplitGuard can significantly mismatch the ratio of fake samples actually used in SplitGuard. We also show some reconstructed result of SplitGuard and FSHA. We can see that reconstructed images of SplitGuard with different lambda are of similarity high fidelity. This indicates that SplitGuard's reconstructed capability is robust to different values of lambda. The failures of active defense, such as SplitGuard, prompts us to consider what properties an effective defense should have. We advocate that this defense should be passive without tampering with split learning training, and should rely on intrinsic differences of received gradients between the two types of training. Such a passive approach is more difficult to design, but also generally harder to evade than an active approach. Our proposed defense, gradient scrutinizer, exploits the fact that a normal model is label-aware, while a malicious model is label-unaware. For a normal model, gradients of the same classes are more similar than gradients from different classes. This distinction vanishes for a hijacked model. Another fact gradient scrutinizer exploits is that GAN training is less stable than prediction model training. Gradients of normal training should be smoother than those of hijacked training. The figure shows the overview of our proposed gradient scrutinizer. After receiving gradients from server, the client calculates a detection score. If the detection score is below a preset threshold, the server is determined to be malicious. Gradient scrutinizer is a passive detector without interfering with normal training. Gradient scrutinizer's detection score consists of 3 metrics at each step. Say at ith step. The first metric is the set gap. It is the difference between the average cosine similarity of the same classes and that of different classes. This metric measures the correlation between the training model and the labels. The second is the fitting error. We use a low-order polynomial to fit the average cosine similarity along steps. The fitting error of the L2 norm measures the training stability of the model. The last is the overlapping ratio. It is the intersection over union of the cosine similarity range between the same and different classes after removing a certain top and bottom percentiles. It also measures the correlation between model and labels. The performance of gradient scrutinizer against FSHA on 4 different datasets is shown here. The first 2 columns shows the cosine similarity of honest training and hijacked training, respectively. And the last column is their detection score. We can see that honest training with red line and hijacked training with blue line are highly distinctive. And the gradient scrutinizer can detect a hijacked training within the first 100 training steps for all datasets. Here we show some reconstructed images of different datasets when FSHA is detected by gradient scrutinizer and when no detection is used. Along with WFSHA, an enhanced version of WFSHA with more stable GAN training. We can see that no meaningful information is leaked when FSHA is detected. The performance of gradient scrutinizer against the split spy on CIFAR-10 is shown here. The left column shows the cosine similarity of split spy with different lambda values. The right column shows the detection score in blue line and the threshold in yellow. We can see that gradient scrutinizer are successfully detect split spy with various lambda at a very early stage. In addition to FSHA and the split spy, we have studied 4 potential adaptive attacks that are designed to evade gradient scrutinizer. The first adaptive attack is the mixed gradient attack. In this attack, the malicious server mixed hijacked gradients with normal training gradients to full detector. The second is the conditional GAN attack. In this attack, the malicious server used conditional GAN in FSHA to produce label-aware gradients against our defense. The third is the label-aware GAN FSHA. It aims to achieve the same goal as the conditional GAN attack by introducing label-dependent loss into the GAN model to produce label-aware results to evade detection. The last one is the alternating attack. In this attack, the malicious server alternatively backward propagates normal gradients and hijacked gradients to evade detection. These experimental results on the 4 adaptive attacks are shown here. We can see that our defense can effectively detect all the adaptive attacks. We also show reconstructed images of the 4 adaptive attacks with or without our defense. We can see that no sensitive information is leaked for all the 4 adaptive attacks. We conclude the presentation with the following highlights. Hijacking attacks pose a serious threat to split learning. They can effectively reconstruct private training data with high fidelity. The only existing effective defense against hijacking attack is SplitGuard. It is an active defense that can be effectively evaded by our split spy that exploits the same property used in SplitGuard to detect hijacking attacks. Our proposed gradient scrutinizer is a passive detection method that does not tamper with normal training. It is based on the intrinsic distinction between intended training and malicious training. It can effectively detect existing and adaptive hijacking attacks well before any meaningful leakage of private training data. Gradient scrutinizer is an effective defense against hijacking attacks in split learning. Thank you for your attention.
So let me be the first to ask. So I wonder, in the gradient scrutinizer defense, you mentioned some preset thresholds for the detection. I wonder how those preset threshold values are determined and how sensitive they are to different workloads and different domains?
Well, thanks for your question. We assume that each clients have a small data set, such as FMNIST we used in our experiment results. And first, we will calculate the gradient scrutinizer, the score of 3 metrics in this small data set. And then the threshold is set to the value that we calculate to the best distinguish the normal training and the malicious training. This threshold can be used in other dataset. It's not so sensitive in, it's a general threshold. Thank you.
Yeah, I see. Thanks. So again, just a quick follow-up. So you mentioned that. So I wonder if you try using maybe different small data set and kind of derive the same or different threshold values, because I think that's always the kind of tricky issue, right, for any detection method.
Okay. We have to conduct the experiment on 4 dataset: MNIST, Cifraton, Celeb-A, and ImageNet. The threshold is almost around 0.5. And we can see that in some figures in our paper that the malicious training or malicious server always gets the detection score around 0. And the normal training should get the detection score around near to 1. So the threshold is always around the 0.5. And it's generally effective to detect hijacking attacks.
Great.
That's my point.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you. Let's thank Jiayun one more time.
Thank you.